Good evening, everybody, and welcome. My name is Simon Wright, and I am the Director of Programming here at Japan House London. And thank you for joining us at Japan House for tonight's talk on sustainable forestry in Japan by Iida Shumpei, held in collaboration with the Japan External Trade Organization, that's JETRO London, and Japan's Forestry Agency. Tonight, in addition to our audience here at Japan House in the hall, we are also broadcasting to a virtual audience on Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also LinkedIn. So a warm welcome to all our online viewers as well. The event is being recorded, and a recording will be archived on our online platforms for you to view later. So coinciding with Japan House's current gallery exhibition, the Carpenters Line, which focuses on the woodworking heritage of the densely forested Hida Takayama area in Gifu Prefecture, tonight's talk takes a closer look at Japan's abundant forest resources and how they are managed. Shortly, I will hand you over to our speaker for this evening, Iida Shumpei from JETRO London, who will introduce us to the multifunctional roles of forests in Japan and new initiatives for sustainable forest management. So Iida Shumpei joined the Japanese Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries in April 2006. Since September 2020, has been responsible for promoting the export of Japanese agricultural, forestry, fisheries and food products at JETRO London. He has also worked for the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism's Housing Bureau and the Sumitomo Forestry Company. He has a master's degree in wood science and wood products from the University of Tokyo and a Master of Forestry from the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies. And following Iida-san's presentation, there'll be an opportunity for you all to ask questions. And questions are also welcomed from our guests watching online on Zoom, who can submit questions through the Zoom Q&A function. So without further ado, would you please join me in welcoming tonight's guest, Iida Shumpei.
Thanks, Simon-san, for the introduction of myself, and thanks everyone for joining today's seminar, physically and virtually. And I also thank Japan House London for this great opportunity. I am Shumpei from JETRO London, where I am responsible for food and drink issues, mainly by supporting food suppliers, Japanese suppliers to the UK market. But I'm originally from Forestry Agency of Ministry of Agriculture, Japan government. Today, I will talk about sustainable forestry in Japan. Many of you have already visited the exhibition, the Carpenters Line, which shows the very beautiful forest in Hida Takayama and how people there have lived with forests, and also how the woodworking techniques for furniture and wooden buildings have developed in that region. I will talk a little bit later, but Japan has a very diversified forest, and forest in Hida Takayama is one of unique forests in Japan. But today, I will talk from the nationwide forest and forestry to help everyone understand Japan's forestry and wood industry from wider viewpoint. And I will focus more on plantation forest, which connects more closely to the policy measures of Forestry Agency. This is the content of my talk today. First, I will explain overview of Japan's forest and forestry, referring to forest distribution, tree species, and cyclic use of forest resources. The second part is utilization of forest resources. I will touch on wood culture in Japan, or Japan's wood supply and demand, and one of the prominent wood usage in Japan, mass timber construction. Now let's get started with the first part, overview of Japan's forest and forestry. First, I explain Japan's forest distribution. Generally speaking, Japan is blessed with the environment favorable to the growth of forests thanks to the sufficient precipitation nationwide, particularly in summer. Forests in Japan are diversified as Japan is geographically long in north and south direction, and Japan has a complex terrain and diverse 5 climate zones. This map shows how Japan is covered with 5 climate zones. If we see the northern part, like Hokkaido, it is covered with alpine or subalpine zones. If we see the southern part, like Kyushu Island, it is mostly covered with warm temperate zone. And if we see the Okinawa Islands, which is described in the bottom center, but actually it is located south from the Kyushu Island, it is covered with rainforest. And you can notice that each area has a spot, like Kyushu Island, it is mostly covered with warm temperate, but it also has a spot of cool temperate zone. This is because of the difference of elevation. So higher elevation is a little bit cooler. So the climate zone or forest in that area is different. Next slide, I will explain land use and forest land ownership in Japan. The pie chart on the left shows the land area by land use. So forests cover about 25 million hectares and account for about 66% of the land in Japan. This ratio, 2/3, is relatively higher than any other countries. And the right pie chart shows the forest ownership. And private forests account for about 57%, followed by national forests and public forests. Next, I explain about forests by tree species. So the bar on the left shows the area of forest divided by planted and natural forests. Natural forests account for about 50 million hectares, it's about 60%, while the planted forests account for about 10 million hectares, which is about 40%. Looking at the tree species, I do not or cannot explain well about tree species in natural forests because it is said that more than 1,000 species exist in natural forests. On the other hand, the tree species in the plantation forest is much simpler. About 70% of planted forests are occupied by Japanese cedar, sugi, and Japanese cypress, hinoki. Another major species is Japanese larch. It is called karamatsu, which is grown in northern area. Then I will explain the forest restoration history after World War II. Due to overcutting of trees and during and after World War II, land in Japan became devastated and large-scale flooding and landslide disasters occurred in various parts of the country in 1940s. Forest planning system was created through enactment of the Forest Act in 1951. Since then, the Japan government has promoted afforestation activities in deforested areas. So the picture on the left shows the degraded forest early 1940s. And the picture in the middle shows the same area after the afforestation activities had done in late 1940s. And you can see that some kind of steps or stairs on the slope. This is one of the popular techniques for afforestation. By creating these steps on the eroded slopes, the slope becomes stable, and we can easily plant trees on that steps. And the right picture shows the restored forest at present. And I'm not sure whether this picture taken in the same place of the left or middle pictures, but maybe not. But I can say that the area is a similar condition as the right picture. If a forest was once lost, it would need very long time and intensive efforts for the restoration. Next, I will explain the forest resources by age classification. So in the forestry field, two age counting systems are used. The first one is it's a very normal counting. It's like year 1, year 2, or year 10, or year 50. The other counting system is age class, which is used on this bar chart. Each age class consists of trees of 5 consecutive years. So age class 1 consists of trees from year 1 to year 5. And age class 11 consists of trees from year 51 to year 55. So you can see the from this bar chart, almost half of the planted forest are over age 10 or 11. And the trees at the plantation forest over 50 years is ready for use. So I can say it's ready to be harvested. And from this bar chart, you can also tell that how the restoration activities had done. So the beginning of peak starts at age class 13, which is about 60 years ago. So just the restoration activity I explained earlier started around this time. Next, I will talk about the forest management activities. Silvicultural activities of sustainable forest management are one of the fundamental measures to achieve diverse function of forest, which I will explain next. And this image shows the development of planted forest with activities required at each stage. So this is a plantation forest. The planting is a very first step. After that, weeding is required for several years, and followed by cutting, thinning, and final harvesting. Some of you may think that for plantation, just planting and final harvesting are required, but actually weeding, cutting, and thinning are very important. For weeding, weeding is required to protect young seedlings from weed. So as I explained earlier, Japan has a high precipitation in summer. So it is good not only for trees, but also weed. So this weeding is very important and very labor intensive. And cutting and thinning are also important because not all planted trees grow well until the final stage. So by cutting and thinning, it creates more space for fine trees to grow more vigorously. So appropriate activities are necessary in accordance with standard age class or condition. Next is the multifunctional roles of forests. Forests play multifunctional roles in social, environmental, and economical aspects. It is important to maintain and improve these functions through appropriate development and preservation. So the roles include like disaster prevention or forest production. It's like a timber or mushroom or wild vegetables. And from the climate change perspective, forests preserve the global environment by absorbing carbon dioxide, or forests also preserve biodiversity. To promote forest multifunctional roles, cyclic use of forest resources is one of key options. So this cycle is similar to the image about sustainable forest management, but this cycle has a wood use stage additionally. From planting to harvest stages, forests absorb carbon dioxide, but even after wood is harvested, carbon emissions can be reduced. Like if the wood used as a building material, it stores carbon for a long time. And even if the wood used as energy or woody biomass, it can reduce the carbon emission by substituting fossil fuels. In order to contribute to carbon neutrality by 2050, which is a Japan government target, it is effective to promote the cyclic use of forest resources. This is the end of my first part, and I will move on to the second part, utilization of forest resources. First, I will talk about long history of wood use in Japan. In Japan, wood has been used as major building material for the long period of time. I will show two examples of this history. So the first example, the picture on the left, is a total ruins in Shizuoka Prefecture. At this ruin, large-scale timber is found, and it is 5,000 years ago. And the second example on the right is Horyuji Temple, which is the world's oldest wooden building complex, and it is developed 1400 years ago. There are many other examples to explain the long history, but I can say these two examples are enough to show the long history. Next is a wood culture in Japan. In Japan, each region developed its own culture in wood use, including interior decoration, alcohol fermentation, shipbuilding, and shrine construction. The top left is a Kitayama Sugi from Kyoto Prefecture. This is used for interior decoration because of its beautifulness. And it is used like for the tea ceremony room. And the example of top right is Yoshinosugi from Wakayama Prefecture. Yoshinosugi is used for Japanese sake fermentation because of its fragrance. And the bottom left is Obisugi from Miyazaki Prefecture. It is used for shipbuilding because of its strength and elasticity. It's a, how can I say, flexible material. And the bottom right is Kiso Hinoki from Nagano and Gifu prefectures. It is used for shrine construction because of its strength and beautiful rings. Forestry in Japan supported such wood culture through provision wood material and developing a variety of silvicultural methodologies in each regions. And of course, the woodworking techniques of Hida Takayama is one of these examples. Next, I will explain the two representative tree species of plantation. The first one is sugi. It is a coniferous tree unique to Japan. Sugi is widely grown from northern part to southern part. Even in Hokkaido, sugi is grown. And sugi is also widely used in Japan as building materials, ceiling boards, furniture, packaging, and shipbuildings, and more. The other representative species is hinoki. Hinoki is durable and has a characteristic of fragrance. Because of its excellent properties, hinoki is used for many purposes as a high-grade material. So if we say the house is made of hinoki, it can mean that it is a high-end house. Or if you visit a luxurious ryokan in Japan, it may have the hinoki bathtub. It means or you can feel more comfortable, I think, at the hinoki bathtub. And if we compare sugi and hinoki, like looking at the density of material, sugi is a little bit softer with average density about 0.38. On the other hand, hinoki has a little bit higher density, about 0.44. And if we compare the strengths, hinoki has higher numbers. But there are techniques to make sugi is more usable, like by compressing. So you can find that example of compressed sugi at the exhibition. I have talked about the wood culture and specific examples, but I will explain the nationwide or Japan's wood demand and supply to help you to grab a whole picture of wood use. This bar chart is Japan's wood demand from 50s to 2021. Japan's total wood demand reached its peak in 1973 and its bottom in 2009, then has been stable recent years. In 2021, the highest demand is wood chips for pulp, followed by lumber, firewood, and plywood. And if we see the trend in recent years, the firewood demand is increasing. This is because I think it's not only in Japan, but also other countries. This is increasing the popularity of woody biomass use. The next, I will explain about Japan's wood supply. This bar chart shows the Japan's wood supply from 50s to 2021. Japan covered most of its wood demand by domestic supply in 1950s, then expanded to supply imported wood. Self-sufficiency rate, it is a ratio of domestic wood against total wood supply, reached its bottom in 2002, 18.8%, then has increased to 41.1% in 2021. Next, I will explain the benefits of wood use, focusing on 4 characteristics. The first one is comfortable humidity. This graph shows change in humidity by interior materials in a house. So you can see the wood makes the humidity stable compared to other materials like plastic sheet, and some with a shelter. This is because wood absorbs or releases moisture according to the humidity. So maybe you feel more comfortable inside the wooden house. The next characteristic is a comfortable fragrance. These graphs show the maximum blood pressure and brain activity of the people surrounded by Japanese cedar. So you can see both the level of blood pressure and brain activity decrease as time passed. This can be because of the relaxation effect from the wood fragrance. The next example at the bottom left is high heat insulation of wood. So some of you may have experienced that if you touch metal or glass, you feel it is cold. And if you touch wood, you feel it is not cold, or sometimes it's warm. This is because of heat conductivity of each material. So the bar chart shows the heat conductivity of each material. And wood has much lower heat conductivity, and this means that wood has a high heat insulation. The last example on bottom right is high shock absorbency. Of course, wood is not softer than mattress, but it is much softer than other materials, building materials. This is because wood is composed of many thin tubes shown in the picture. The structure functions like a cushion, and some elderly facility in Japan use this characteristic for the wooden floor. So on the wooden floor, elderly people get less injured even when they slept on the floor. Looking at these benefits of wood and social, economic, and environmental impacts, Forestry Agency is leading a promotional activity named Wood Change. Wood Change is a slogan to promote the change to sustainable society through the activities including change daily necessities to wood products, utilize wood in daily life, and construct buildings and houses with wood. Major construction companies and designing companies or the relevant organization from forestry, and wood industry joins this Wood Change network to promote this activity. I have talked about several ways to use wood, but I want to explain one of the increasing wood usage, mass timber construction, which is becoming more and more popular, not only in Japan, but also in other countries. So these 4 examples are projects of mass timber construction recently completed. The top left is the office building located in Tokyo. The structure is wooden and RC. It's reinforced concrete. And it is 12 stories underground, above ground, and 1 story underground. The point about this project, I can say, it's a collaboration with local area and urban area. So from the name, you can tell the Ginza is a very center of Tokyo, but they use the timber from Fukushima Prefecture in main structure. And the second example is a training center in Yokohama. So this is a wooden wholly wooden structure, and it is 11 stories above ground and 1 story underground. This is Japan's first fully wooden and fire-resistant high-rise structure, applying new developed column beam unit, which creates more spaces inside the building, and it makes possible the fully wooden building. The next example, bottom left, is Awakura Kaikan in Nishi-Awakura, Okayama Prefecture. This is a complex facility for like a library or study room and or community spaces. This is the structure is wooden and earthy, and it is 2 stories above ground. The point about this project is high usage of local sourced wood, dividing construction periods and considering wood supply schedules. It is a little bit technical, but these wood supply schedules are very important, particularly if you use locally sourced wood. That is because not all wood materials cannot be brought to the construction site at the same time. So the construction period is divided, and further, the wood requires several months for drying. So construction company need to think about how the schedule is completed. And this project successfully managed to supply wood from local area. The last example is Toho Gakuen Munetsugu Hall, which is a music hall in Tokyo. This is structure is wooden and 3 stories above ground and 1 story underground. This hall used cross-laminated timber called CLT, which function not only as a structure and interior, but also as a reflector for the hall. I would like to introduce the mass timber construction in the UK by Sumitomo Forestry. Sumitomo Forestry is a company, despite of its name, dealing with a wide range of businesses, including forest management, timber trading, and housing and building construction, and further, the lifestyle services. Speaking of mass timber construction, Sumitomo Forestry has completed several projects, not only in Japan, but also in other countries. And last year, Sumitomo Forestry announced that they would start the very first project in Europe. It is named Paradise SE10, and it is still under construction, but it will be office, a 6-story mass timber office located in Lambeth, London. And it will be completed September 2024. I have talked about overview of forestry or wood use in Japan, but let me introduce a cartoon at the end of my presentation. This is oyamanga, and in Japanese, mountain or forest is oyama, and cartoon is manga. So oyamanga is a mixed word of forest and cartoon. Oyamanga is drawn by one of my colleagues at Forestry Agency, and she's not a professional manga writer, but she's very good at drawing cartoons. And oyamanga has many episodes which explain the basic information about Japan's forestry and wood industry. If you are a Japanese reader, you are lucky, because all episodes are drawn in Japanese. But even if you are an English reader, you don't have to be disappointed, because some episodes are translated in English. Or further, you can learn Japan's forest and Japanese language at the same time with original episodes. And Rinko-chan is the main character of Oya manga. And this is a QR code for the Oya manga collection page. So if you are interested, please access from this QR code. That is all my presentation. Thank you for listening. And thanks again, Japan House London, for this great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hida-san. Thank you. We have an opportunity for people to ask questions. Please do not hold back. I'm sure there's lots that you'd like to ask. What will happen is we will ask you to put your hands up, and then we will have a microphone come to you. That means that also our online viewers can hear what you're saying. Also, everybody else in the room. So please put your hand up and wait for the microphone to come to you. But first of all, let me kick off with one of the questions that's come from online already. We've got a few, so we'll see what we can do. Have you been importing different species to what normally grows in Japan? Species of trees from outside Japan. For example, has Japan been importing hardwoods like oak, for example? And this is quite specific. Where does maple feature in the industry?
As far as I know, Japan imports several species. Actually, the source country changes over time. Like in the past, Japan imported many roundwood from Southeast Asia or Russia, but because of change in those countries' policy, the source countries changed. I think recently, maybe New Zealand or South America, we are importing wood. And of course, maple or oaks are included.
Thank you very much. We have a question in the room. We do have one question here for this. We could wait for the microphone. Thank you.
Hi. Like there is a saying, or like an expression, the fire and the fight is the flower of Edo. So at the time of Edo period, all the buildings are of course in wood. And then those days it was always fire. And then to prevent fire, they had to make like a kura, made with like, what do you say, like plaster and things to make a bit of a space between a wooden building. But you showed us the big wooden building, but then how do you prevent the fire? And also Japan is known for so many earthquakes. So how do you go about with earthquake and wooden structure?
Thanks for the technical question. I'm not sure I can explain well, but there are several examples of techniques for the high-rise construction. So one example is the column is not created not only wood. It's one example is the mixture of wood and mortar to how can I say, to keep that column. I mean to keep resistant fire for enough time the people inside escape from the building. And how can I say, fire resistant time depends on the area. So urban area is more stricter. But in the local area, it's less strict.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions in the room at all? We have somebody, yes, at the second row from the back. If you could keep your hand up so that we can get a microphone to you. Keep your hand up.
Hello. Thank you for such an informative presentation. I learned a lot. I'm not sure if this is within your expertise, but you mentioned that Japan is aiming to reach carbon neutrality by 2050. It's from what I've learned, you know, the UK businesses, they're kind of because UK has committed to also reach net zero by 2050, a lot of businesses are kind of offsetting by, you know, buying part of forests in the Amazon forest or whatever. But I was wondering if it's common for Japanese businesses to buy off forest as part of their carbon neutrality plan. Sorry, does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I have little idea about that. But some companies is promoting the planting trees, not only in Japan, but also other countries. So I assume they are, how can I say, getting some credits or offsetting the emission.
So do they buy off in like within Japan, or do you think it's more like other countries?
I'm not sure the exact numbers, but sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. And sorry, I also have another question. I'm not sure if this was mentioned in your presentation, but does Japan export a lot of their wood to, and if so, like where does that go to mostly?
In the last several years, I heard the export to US had increased because the physical property of yellow pine in the US is similar to sugi. So sugi was exported to US.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, we have a question from this gentleman. Your hand came up. Thank you. And then we have somebody in the front as well. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the informative talk. You had a lot of facts about the use of forestry and wood products and the financial benefits there. And you touched on climate change, but I wondered if you put financial value on things like the social functions of the forest, in terms of whether it be in tourism, like your national forests, like Snow Monkey Forest in Nagano is a very beautiful place, or in like there's the social value, sort of health and well-being in the popularization of Japanese forest bathing, which is sort of traveling around the world as an interesting, and the values of that to public health.
So in the past, I showed a slide about the multifunctionality of forests, and in the past, we showed the, how can I say, monetary value of each function. But this is my personal opinion. How to calculate that numbers are kind of controversial. So recently, Forestry Agency doesn't use that numbers. So maybe you can find somewhere, but I'm not sure at this moment.
Thank you. We had a question in the front, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very informative talk. You mentioned about how the areas were cleared after the Second World War, the forests were destroyed. Could you explain a bit about why that was? Was that just about rebuilding the country? And sort of following on from that, sort of the rebuilding of them when they grew again, how have they been destroyed when there have been the big earthquakes and tsunamis? How did the forests survive any of that?
Could you repeat the last part?
When there was a big tsunami and when there were big earthquakes, how do the forests survive? Do they get destroyed? Do you have to start again?
For the first part, I think the wood, I'm not sure it's mainly, but probably used for fuel during the World War II. So I have heard that at the time, there was a car operated by charcoal. And we use wood for heat, of course. And the second question is, actually, I don't get precisely, but you are asking tsunami disaster, natural disaster. Like the big earthquake in Tohoku, it's 2011. Of course, I do not know the all cases, but some cases, maybe trees fell down, but even the trees that fell down, it alleviates the strength of tsunami. So it has some low, or for the, yes.
Okay, thank you. We have something online, before we go into the hall again. This is from Rebecca, and she says, hello.
Hello.
I would like to know what initiatives are being undertaken to identify, protect, and restore Japan's primeval forest.
Probably my mind is focusing more plantation forest, but there should be several measures to protect primitive forest, and collaborating with Ministry of Environment. So we have cooperation at the national parks in Japan. And sorry, I cannot explain the exact specific measures, but there should be.
I mean, for example, I know that some UNESCO World Heritage sites in Japan are in fact forests. For example, like Yakushima
or Shiratoko, or Shirakami. Several.
Which is more so than UK. Okay, thank you. I have another one from online as well. This is anonymous. Thank you very much for the talk. Very fascinating. Do you know something about the difference in biodiversity between plantation forest and natural forests?
This is also just should be the difference biodiversity in between plantation forests and natural forests, because this is just my assumption, but natural forest has more tree species, which should mean that more diversified environment for not only plants, but also insects or birds. But even the plantation forest has a little number of species. It creates like a shades or like moisture controlling. So there's a biodiversity even in plantation forests.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we've got time for a couple more questions. We have one gentleman right at the back, and also you in the front. Thank you. First to the gentleman at the back. If you could put your hand up, please, so we can see where you are. Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for the talk. It was great. I'm working on a project to get Scotland to have 30% of its land to be protected by 2030. And I wanted to ask you around kind of lessons we could learn from Japan, because obviously 66% of your land is forest. Forest is a big part of Scotland and for the protected areas. So my question is around, how do you encourage private landowners to reforest their land? And is a lot of the land in Japan owned by the government so they can turn it into forest as and when they need to? and kind of for any recommendations for Scotland in terms of how would they encourage their population to be more forest focused. So there's a lot there. I apologize, but
this is also a difficult question to answer. But I think I'm not sure if this is the case for the UK or Scotland. Harvesting costs a lot, and planting also costs a lot. So many private forest owners are unwilling to manage the planted forest. But government, national government or local government are supporting these private owners by subsidies or like, I don't, maybe some other aspects. So sorry, I can't answer precisely, but yes, there are several supports from government. Owned by.
So for those of you online, how much of Japan's forest is owned by the government?
So about 30% is owned by national government, and about 12% is managed by local government.
Okay, thank you very much. And we had one question, I believe, in the front before we close. Thank you.
I was wondering if Japan has an issue with illegal deforestations, and how do you control that?
As far as I know, Japan does not have the deforestation issue, but recently there is some illegal logging issue where the tree grows well. So yes, because can say, as I explained, Japan has enough rich precipitation, so that trees or plants grow well. So I can say little deforestation happens.
Thank you very much. We have just one last question online, actually, to close, maybe. Thank you very much for the interesting talk. Can you let us know where we can learn more about Japanese forestry in English?
In English. Forestry Agency is publishing the white paper every year, and of course the Japanese version, it's a full report. But they also publish the English version of white paper. It's the amount is less compared to Japanese version, but I think it's enough information to learn about Japanese forestry.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Personally, I'm looking forward to Sumitomo Forestry's Paradise SE11, I think it was, not far from where I am, actually, in London. And the future, maybe, of wooden construction in the UK. Maybe you can come back to us in some time in the future to give us an update of how well that's doing. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to our speaker, Iida Shumpei. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to our event partners, JETRO London and Japan's Forestry Agency. Thank you to our interpreter, Air Kurasawa. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you to the guests here in the hall and to those online. If you'd like to listen to today's talk again, a recording of the event will be archived on Japan House's YouTube and other online platforms. Following the event, we'll also send everyone a simple feedback through email. If you could fill that in, that would be very helpful, as it will enable us to continue creating events like this in the future. We mentioned the Carpenters Line, of course, the woodworking heritage in Hida Takayama. We touch on some of the issues which in fact have been mentioned in Iida-san's talk today with the deforestation of beech wood before and the conversion into sugi and how that has affected the furniture industry. So please do have a look at that. The exhibition is open until 8:30 this evening, especially for those of you here if you want to go and have a look. We have our family workshops on Saturday and Sunday, the 21st and 22nd, where you can make your own paper emma, specifically from Hida Takayama. We also continue our talk series of collections in Japan, this time on Wednesday, the 25th of January, here at Japan House, collecting and displaying Japan at the British Museum with Dr. Rosina Buckland, curator of the Japanese collection at the British Museum. Thank you very much indeed. Can you please put your hands together again for Iida Shumpei? Thank you.
Thank you very much.